What's up everyone, welcome to the video. We are here breaking down this Monday Night Football Showdown slate for DraftKings and FanDuel. And once again, we have an AFC West showdown between the Denver Broncos and the Los Angeles Chargers and what looks to be a decent game in LA. 45.5 point over under, 4.5 point spread. I will tell you right now, and I'm sure most of you can agree with me, but I am sick and tired of seeing the Denver Broncos on the schedule for primetime games because Russell Wilson is not that great anymore, it seems like. I guess Denver wasted all that money on him. But it's not fun. I don't have a good time. He's corny. It just sucks. So I don't want to even look at the schedule. I'm sure they have him on more games throughout the season. But man, it has been absolutely brutal. But on the bright side, we at least get to watch Justin Herbert watch football, which should at least even it out from having to watch Russ. But anyway, if this is your first time on the channel, what's up? My name is Chris Pennell. I break down NASCAR and NFL DFS each and every single week on this channel. Also a contributor over on Stochastic. So if you've seen my semi-ugly face before, that might be the reason why. But what we do in these videos, specifically for showdowns, we go through each position, kind of categorize it by team, because we like to have an orderly fashion here. I do not like chaos, so it makes it a little bit easier to digest the information. We build a lineup as we progress, more so for like a tournament single entry build, and then I run the optimizer, which has my own projections and ownership projections on it at the end to see who's popping the most as of right now. And if you want access to all that stuff, link is down below in the description for that. And if you do end up enjoying today's free content, the only thing I ask in return, if you can leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you're brand new, and hit that bell so you're notified whenever I post new content. And feel free to leave a comment down below saying whatever you wanted to say because I have no control over you. And don't forget to check out the sponsor of the show, PrizePicks, because they do make these videos possible. And as of right now, if you're new signing over on the website, you can use promo code CPEN to get an instant deposit match bonus up to $100. There's no strings attached. It's free money. Please use that to your advantage. I highly recommend it. I plan it every single week. I live in Florida. I can't bet legally, but this is my work a way around it. I'm sure a lot of you are in a similar situation. So again, promo code CPEN when you do sign up using the link down below or head over to prizepicks.com. But with that being said, I think that'll be it for the plug. So without further ado, let's dive right into it. And as always, you will start with the quarterback position. And if you want access to the sheet here that I am showing you for free, a little preview on YouTube, link is down below in the description for that. It has access to all the projections, optimizer, ownership projections, all the fun stuff. Link can be found down below. Anyway, let's talk quarterbacks. We have Justin Herbert, $11,000 on DraftKings, $17K over on FanDuel. It's not a question of do you want to play Justin Herbert. It's a matter of how much and how much in the captain spot, because we are playing Justin Herbert. He's the top play on the slate, highest projected player. And while the matchup versus Denver isn't that great, he's playing at home, and the same thing can be said for the Denver Broncos defense, where the matchup isn't that great versus Justin Herbert and the Chargers offense. They have the higher implied team total here at 25 compared to 20.5 for Russell Wilson and the Denver Broncos. Now this season, Herbert's been pretty darn good. Nearly 300 passing yards per game, 2 passing touchdowns, 37 pass attempts per game. Same YPA as Russell Wilson, higher completion percentage, but the only bad thing here is the Broncos are allowing the second fewest points per game to the quarterback position, and they're also second DVA versus the pass, but I still have Justin Herbert for, I believe, around 20 points compared to 17 for Wilson. I know he's $1,000 more, but either way, I want a lot of Herbert. I assume he's going to be the highest owned captain on this slate. I am fine having a lot of him in the captain spot, but just keep in mind, Herbert's not a guy that really runs the ball as much as guys like Lamar Jackson, like Josh Allen, so in order for him to go off, one of his skill position players are going to have to go off as well. So for tournaments, that makes it more appealing to roster some of the pass catchers. But if you are playing cash games, I understand wanting to go the Herbert route. And as for Russell Wilson, he's not going to project quite as well, but he's still a quarterback on a showdown slate. And as much as we like to make fun of him, I still have him for around 17 points in this game, which, projection-wise is some of the best on this slate. It's just, he's not getting touchdowns this year. Less than a touchdown per game, 250 passing yards, 32 pass attempts. Chargers a little bit worse on defense though, 12th DVA versus the pass, and bottom half in the league in terms of fantasy points allowed per game to the position. I'm not super ecstatic about Russ, but since it's a showdown slate, I'm still going to have a decent chunk of him, but probably not too much in the captain spot. And moving over to our lineup, instead of just jamming in both quarterbacks, I'm not going to force Russ in as of right now. If we can fit him at the end, great, but if not, I don't think it's going to be a huge deal because there's other good expensive players in the slate. You have Mike Williams, who's going to correlate well with Justin Herbert. We have Austin Eckler, who's been on fire the past 2 weeks. Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy. So we'll see what happens. But as for right now, let's just plug in Herbert in the flex spot and move on from there. And moving on to running backs, we'll start with the Chargers group here first, which consists of Austin Eckler, $11,400. Joshua Kelly at $6,400, and Sony Michel at $6,200. Now last week, it was basically just Eckler and Kelly. Eckler put in over 50% of the snaps, Joshua Kelly around 20-25%, and Michel got in under 5% of the snaps, although last week he saw around 20-some% of the snaps. But I just really have a hard time getting to any Kelly and Michel at their price points because they just don't really see that much volume. Maybe if they steal a goal line touchdown, that's where they can make it work. But if you're looking at the touch distribution this year, about 12 carries per game for Eckler, 4.6 for Kelly and Michelle. But what makes a big difference here, what makes Eckler so valuable for fantasy football purposes, is his involvement in the passing game in this offense. A 17% target share on the season, over 6 targets per game, catches almost all of them, over 40 receiving yards, and he seems to be a magnet for touchdowns, and the past 2 weeks have been absolutely incredible for Eckler. Now, the only problem is he is pretty expensive here, and the Broncos defense doesn't suck or anything, but they've been kind of mid-pack DVOA-wise versus the run this year, but only allowing the 9th fewest points per game to the running back position. But Eckler, he's a beast. I think he's going to be able to handle this, and we saw Josh Jacobs have an absolutely monster game versus them, so it's not like they're invincible or anything. The only problem is Eckler is very expensive, but on the bright side, if you are rostering Herbert, he actually does make sense correlation-wise with him because he is a main pass catcher in this offense, so it's not like you're rostering a running back, but it doesn't make sense because you're quarterback and you want the pass catchers. But Eckler is kind of like that running back wide receiver hybrid mix, which makes him perfect for DFS. And then moving on to the Broncos group here, it's going to be pretty confusing to talk about this until we actually get some valid information here. But we have 3 running backs that are in play with Melvin Gordon at $8,200, Mike Boone at $4,800, and then Latavius Murray, who they signed off the practice squad, at $1,600. But in the one game he played this year for the Saints, he didn't look too bad. He was over 5 yards per carry, saw 11 carries and also 57 rushing yards and got into the end zone. None of that matters because that's on a different team. But the big question mark here is that Melvin Gordon is questionable for this game, like very questionable. There's a chance he misses. So we will see what happens. If he happens to be out, that makes Mike Boone at $4,800 and Latavius Murray some of the best value plays on the entire slate. Because if we look at the Chargers' run defense this year, which is no surprise, the past couple of seasons they've been pretty bad versus the run, but they've been awful. They're actually allowing the most fantasy points per game to the position, over 120 rushing yards. They're also getting beat up through the air as well and allowing nearly 34 DraftKings points per game. So all these running backs will definitely have value, but we're going to have to wait and see on the Melvin Gordon news. Melvin Gordon is in, he's going to see a normal workload. I like him a lot at $8,200. If he happens to be out, it's a big bump to Mike Boone, big bump to Latavius Murray, and they would be excellent value plays. Moving back over to our lineup, again, not doing anything too fancy here, but we're going to plug in Austin Eckler in the flex spot. And yes, I know we're eating up a lot of salary here. We're going to have to find some value at some point, but I'm hoping we have enough to make it work. And then moving on to the wide receivers, we will start with the Chargers group here first, which consists of Mike Williams at $10,600, Keenan Allen, although he is doubtful, and I'm going to assume he is out, but I have him on here just for the purpose of looking at target distribution this year. He's at $9,200, but again, I fully expect him not to play in this game. Joshua Palmer, $5,800, and then we have DeAndre Carter at $2,600. And the assumption, and it's probably going to be the reality, that Keenan Allen is out, listed as doubtful. We never usually see those get turned around to questionable tags or guys that end up playing. So we have Mike Williams. He's going to be the alpha dog here, although he draws a very tough matchup versus Patrick Surtain. I believe that's how you pronounce his name. He is a lockdown corner, and he's going to see a lot of him. So while I'm not really someone that cares too much about wide receiver versus cornerback matchups because I think they're really, really noisy, and I just think people get caught up into it too much. And I used to be the same way. It was like the number one thing I cared about, but honestly, it doesn't matter all that much. But if you're under the assumption that Mike Williams is going to get locked up in this game, well, you better look at the other wide receiver options, because if Herbert's going to do well, and we're rostering Herbert, we need some other pass catchers besides Austin Eckler. So you should be looking to Joshua Palmer at half the price point. You should be looking at DeAndre Carter, who's got some speed. And both these guys have seen an uptick in snaps, uptick in usage. Although DeAndre Carter, I wouldn't say is a volume hog by any means. He's been seeing like 2 to 3 targets per game. He's sitting at 3.2 in the season, 8% target share. Joshua Palmer sitting at close to a 15% target share and a handful of targets per game. But none of these guys have really been popping too much. But we're going to need some value. We can't just jam in all the most expensive players. So I'll probably get into a lot of Joshua Palmer and DeAndre Carter, and both their price points are pretty easy to get to. But just so the matchup overall, not easy for any of these guys. I believe the Broncos are second DVA versus the pass, like we mentioned earlier. And they're also allowing the 3rd fewest points per game to the wide receiver position. So have your expectations tempered. But for a showdown slate, these guys are viable plays, and Carter does profile pretty well projection-wise for his price point. And then moving on to the Broncos group here, we have Cortland Sutton at $8,400, like that price point quite a bit. Jerry Jeudy at $7,000. We had KJ Hamler at $3,000. He played on over 50% of the snaps last week. And then after that, it could be a number of guys. We could see Cleveland. We could see Washington. I think it was Cleveland. I think that's the right guy I'm thinking of, but he's not really significant whatsoever. And it could be Kendall Hinton. I know he goes on the practice squad, and sometimes they sign him back up. I know on October 10th they signed him back. I'm not sure if he's going to play or not, so make sure you look at the actives or inactives. But if he does play, before last week when KJ Hamler played over 50% of the snaps, Kendall Hinton was the guy playing the third most snaps at the wide receiver position. So just keep that in mind, because if he does play and he is active and he's going to have a decent role, he's only $200, but as of right now, I'm not exactly sure what that situation is going to be like. But as for these Denver wide receivers, I prefer the Chargers side here first. I mean, I like Justin Herbert more. They had the higher implied team total. I trust their offense a little bit more because Russ has just looked pretty rough. But in lineups that you are using Russell Wilson, you're going to get some pass catchers with him because he's not going to get there by himself on the ground. So Courtland Sutton at that price point, I like quite a bit. And the Chargers have been a little bit worse versus wide receivers this season, as they are 22nd versus the position and also 12th DVA versus the pass. But this is mainly a situation where I'm playing whoever fits. I'm not really going my way to just roster anyone here unless it's a specific Broncos lineup with Russell Wilson and you want to get a pass catcher, or if you're just trying to do some Courtland Sutton captain lineups, which I'm perfectly fine with because I think this price point looks pretty good, especially for a guy with a 28% target share, seeing 9 targets per game, and close to a 40% market share of the team's air yards. And moving over to our lineup, I honestly don't know what I want to do here. I could go the Joshua Palmer route in the captain spot, which would give me a decent chunk of change to work with because he's only $8,700. That leaves me $6,300 left. That's not bad at all, but I'm also kind of intrigued on Courtland Sutton. But if I do roster Courtland Sutton in the captain spot, I feel like I'm kind of tied on using Russell Wilson. And if I go that route, that leaves me $2,500 left for the last couple of spots. So as for right now, let's be stupid and put Palmer in the captain spot. Would I recommend this if you're playing a single entry? Probably not, but we're just having fun here. And then moving back over to our lineup, I'm going to be honest, I'm not really sure which route I want to go. We could be kind of silly and go the Joshua Palmer route because he's only $8,700 in the captain spot. And we're probably going to get a handful of targets. I know the game versus Houston was pretty dreadful with 1 target, 1 catch for 25 yards. And that's a little bit queasy to have in the captain spot. So I feel like I want at least more secure option as far as volume is concerned. And I like Courtland Sutton's price point at $12,600, although it feels like if I roster him, I have to play Russell Wilson as well because, well, that's where his points are going to come from. But we only have $5,000 left per player. Now, if we plug in Russell Wilson, it leaves us $2,500 left. But I think I want to try to go this route. I know there's a couple value plays coming up at tight end, and maybe we get lucky with Melvin Gordon being out and we can throw in one of the cheaper running backs like Mike Boone or Latavius Murray, who's only $1,600. So we'll talk through it, but I do think we can make this work, although we're kind of pushing it a little bit. And moving on to the tight ends, usually this is kind of easy because it's just like one main pass catcher, but I'm going to be honest, both teams have 3 tight ends that could see some work here. We'll start with the Chargers here first. We have Gerald Everett as the clear-cut option at $5,600. He plays the majority of the snaps, and he's the main pass catcher in this offense with a 15% target share. But we also have Donald Parham at $1,400 who returned last week. He played on nearly 40% of the snaps, saw 1 target. Not sure why my numbers didn't pop up there, but I'll fix that after. Then we have Trey McKitty, who was only $200, and he was kind of a chalky option, I believe, in the last showdown slate. I want to say it was versus the Chiefs, and I don't think he did anything. Maybe he caught a ball. I don't remember, but he didn't do anything. But he's only $200, and he can see a target here or there. He's averaging 1.2 targets per game, plays a decent chunk of the snaps, but only seeing a 5% target share on the season. But all these guys are viable. If you need a punt option, McKitty's there. He's going to be on the field. It's just a matter of being able to see if he's going to get a target or not. But maybe he catches a touchdown, and if he does, yeah, you'll be pretty happy at $200. Parham's fine-tuned at $1,400. We've seen him have decent games before on showdown slates. Not that it makes a difference if it's a showdown slate or not, but I've seen him catch a touchdown before, and I rostered him, and it was nice. Maybe you can do that again at $1,400. But Everett's the guy you would want, but you are paying a premium for it, and I say premium lightly. And then moving on to the tight ends for the Denver Broncos, we have Albert O at $24, who is just not good. He played on 20% of the snaps last week, which was a bump up because I think he played 2% of the snaps in the week prior, saw 1 target in that game. Not really sure why he's the most expensive tight end. Eric Saubert, $2,000. He's the guy you're going to want. He plays the most snaps, and he had a decent amount of targets last week, too. And if he plays at $2,000, that's a really good value play, although he is questionable. But he did practice in a limited fashion all week, so I'm going to assume he is good to go. But if he is out, that's a bump up for guys like just Albert O, and I guess you could say Eric Tomlinson. But Tomlinson is mainly just a blocker. I don't really view him as a guy that's a threat to catch many passes. He does have 0.4 targets on the season, but I would not count on him doing anything in the passing game. So it would really just be Albert O who'd get the massive bump there. But I am assuming Eric Saubert plays, and if he does, I like him a lot at $2,000. And then my favorite part of the video, we have defenses and kickers. they're all right. I don't really see myself going out of the way to play defenses. I'll just play whatever the optimizer gives me, but I'll probably end up being a little bit underweight here, especially in the Broncos defense. But the Chargers I could see playing just because the Broncos offense has been a bit anemic this year. But even then, I'll have some exposure to a lot of the Broncos players like Courtland Sutton, a decent amount of Russell Wilson. Then depending on the running back situation for the Broncos, I'll have interest in at least one of those guys, maybe two, but because the Chargers have been so bad versus the run this year. So not super excited about it. 45.5 point over under. It's not like it's a 38 or 36 or anything, so I would just have your expectations a little bit tempered. But if one of them scores a touchdown, yeah, you'll be pretty happy. And then we have the kickers, Dustin Hopkins, who I assume is returning this week. And then Brandon McManus. You can't really project kickers. I have them both around for 8 points. Like if they hit their field goals, they hit their field goals. They become decent value plays, but they do lack, those high ceiling upsides in tournaments most of the time. Although it can work out here and there, but more often than not, especially in the captain spot, you're not really want a kicker. Then moving back over to the lineup to finish this off. It's not pretty, guys. Please don't copy and paste this. I build 150 on Showdown slates, so I don't know which one's going to be my favorite. I just want to see what fits. But assuming Sauber plays, we need some value here. $2,500 left for the last two spots. Need some value, so we're going to plug in Sauber. Just assuming he plays, I'll take my targets. And I already have Russell Wilson, so it's nice to get another pass catcher with Sutton. And that means we have $3,000 left for the last spot. I'm not a big fan of KJ Hamler. He's fast, but just doesn't really do much. DeAndre Carter, if we want another pass catcher with Justin Herbert, that's fine. Because as of right now, we only have Austin Eckler. So I think we need another wide receiver with Herbert. We don't have Palmer, and we don't have Mike Williams. So I feel like we're hurting in that department. So I think it would make sense to probably plug in DeAndre Carter here. Now, it's not like he's a big volume hog, but he's a guy that has some big play upside. So I don't think that's bad. That leaves you $400 left remaining, but use your guys' imagination. Play whatever lineup you want. Many ways you can go. Just don't copy and paste the lineup you see on YouTube. And like I said in the beginning, we're going to run the optimizer here to see who is popping the most as of right now. And I do apologize. I don't have the ownership projections updated just yet. Those will be there in the morning. And if you want access to those to build your own lineups and use the optimizer, link is down below in the description for that. But we don't have any settings set up, no randomness, nothing like that, no groups. We're just going to raw dog it here and see who is popping the most as of now with the raw projections. And it looks like we finally got our 152 crunch here, and let's pop over to the left, and looks like Courtland Sutton's popping a lot, which I get. His price is too low. I think he's, $8,400 in the flex spot. And for the volume that he sees, I know Russell Wilson hasn't been awesome this year, but you need a Bronco in your lineup, and I guess he's going to pop a lot. A lot of Justin Herbert, no surprise there. A lot of Austin Eckler. Carter, his price point, that makes sense, but I play 51% Carter. No, not me personally, but I understand why he's popping so much. Russell Wilson, Justin Herbert's the most popular captain. Yeah, not really too surprised at what we're seeing right now. But again, if you are someone that uses the optimizer, make sure you have your groups, make sure you have your settings, make sure you have your exposure caps, because friends don't let friends play 22% Trey McKitty. With that being said, that's all I got for you guys for today's video. I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, make sure you leave a like on the video. And if you're brand new and you're going to keep returning, might as well hit that subscribe button so it's easier on both of us. But I wish you all the best of luck, and I'll see you all next time.